This is the Book Deal podcast,
where you will discover the inspiring stories behind your favourite books.
We interview seasoned and debut authors, as well as publishing industry professionals, to bring you the best tips and advice on how to get that elusive book deal.
So no matter what stage of writing you're at, we've got you covered. I'm Tina Strawn.
I'm Madeline Cleary.
And I'm Natasha Rai.
And join us as we pull back the curtain of published authors,
one deal at a time. The Book Deal podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters which it's recorded on, and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining the Book Deal podcast for my first episode of 2026. It's a special one for me because I interviewed 3 members of the Debut Crew 2026 as a panel discussion, and we are going to meet each other again towards the end of the year after their amazing books are out. So to introduce them to you, Sophie Stern is from Sydney, Australia, Camaragal, where she lives with her husband and son. Her short fiction has been published in magazines and literary zines, including Yen Magazine, Ellipse and Ellipse's Zine, and shortlisted for the Bridport Prize. The manuscript of her first novel was shortlisted for the Penguin Literary Prize in 2024. Our second author on the panel, Leearna Shaw, is a contemporary rural romance author who writes about strong women fighting for their futures and falling in love along the way. Her debut novel won the Romance Writers of Australia's Emerald Award for Best Unpublished Manuscript in 2024. And when she's not tending to her unhealthy obsession with indoor plants, Leearna can be found either on the yoga mat or chasing runaway lambs and her wayward boys on their farm northeast of Melbourne. And the third writer on our panel today is Inessa Jackson, who is a Sydney crime writer living on Gurungai country. Her debut novel, Devil Mountain, won the Affirm Varuna Mentorship Award and will be published mid-2026. Her first unpublished mystery thriller was runner-up for the 2023 Banjo Prize and shortlisted for the 2022 ASA HQ Commercial Fiction Award. Before she fell in love with crime writing, Inessa backpacked around the world, worked in consumer PR, and then settled into life as a stay-at-home mum. When she's not writing, Inessa spends her time reading, swimming at Manly Beach, and walking her loyal assistant, Billy the Cavoodle. She has a passion for cheese, loves all types of Aussie fiction, and is terrified of sheep. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on part 2 of this one. So here we all are, 2026, the Debut Crew, or some of you from the Debut Crew 2026. So as we always do on the Book Deal, we're going to throw you in the deep end, and you're going to get very good at this. So I would like to hear your elevator pitches for your books. So let's start, please, with Leearna Shaw.
Straight into it, no problem. So A Farm in Golden Clouds is a heartfelt rural romance that delves into the question, what if you found the love of your life and then lost them? The story follows struggling farmer, widow, mother, and self-help author Indy Carmichael, who's just trying to keep her head above water. She doesn't have the time to fix the endless problems facing Managun Farm, let alone for romance. Meanwhile, washed-up actor Ben Whittam just wants his life to stick to the script. But his summer filming on location in the small town of Kestrel Creek is thrown into chaos by a certain farmer/author who bursts into his life. But with Indy's future on the farm hanging by a thread and Ben's career on the line, they'll both need to ask themselves if falling in love when life is falling apart is really the best idea. So A Farm in Golden Clouds, it's out the 31st of March this year.
Oh my God, what a great pitch.
Thank you.
Well done. I can't wait to read it. So tell me, Leearna, how did you come to that idea? Was it something you've been working on for a while, or how did it evolve for you?
So my husband and I, we had a tree change and we moved our family to a small farm on the side of a mountain. This was the end of 2019, and 2 weeks after we moved, my husband, as they do, went out and bought this zero-turn ride-on mower, and he was flying up and down our steep paddocks, and I was watching from the back deck, and he had a very terrifying close call where the mower almost flipped.
Oh my
And
God.
in that moment, I thought to myself, I'm going to be left alone here with 30 acres. I have no idea how to look after 7 sheep. I have no clue what to do with, and 2 children. And my second thought was, that's actually not a bad premise for a rural romance. So once I made sure my husband was okay, no husbands were harmed in the development of this story, I ran inside and jotted down that idea, and that was the start of it.
I love it. I like how you mentioned that, once you checked he was okay.
Yeah.
So
He was
how long,
fine. He's a
how long
trooper.
ago was that?
So that was at the end of 2019. So I actually wrote the first draft during the first COVID lockdown in Melbourne.
Oh, okay. Do you still have the farm?
Yes, yep, we still live here, so
Oh, yeah, yep.
I know what to do now. My sheep we're friends now, so
Excellent. So I'll come back because I really want to know what happened after that, like after you wrote your draft. But let's go to the second person of our debut Crew 2026 panel, Inessa Jackson. Can we have your pitch, please?
Yes, I'd love to. Thanks. So Devil Mountain is due out in late May 2026. And it's a story about a broken-hearted and humiliated police detective, Sergeant Anastasia Brown, who's sent to a small mountain village to investigate the grisly murder of a popular GP. His body's been found in the state forest, burned and chained, with creepy symbols carved into the soles of his feet. Anna quickly realises she has a huge problem on her hands when her investigation hits a dead end and strange things start happening to her. She's forced to ask herself, could the secret coven of witches who worship on the mountain be involved, or is this the work of a clever killer with a taste for the macabre? Either way, she knows she has to solve the mystery before the clock ticks down and the devil strikes again.
Wow, that's so creepy.
I feel like it needs a dun dun dun.
I know. I'm not very good at sound effects. I would have added that in, but maybe you just did it, so that's great. How on earth do you come up with an idea like that? How do you develop?
I was really thinking about this today, and my kids went to the local public school that backs onto the bush, and there was 400 kids built in a school for 200, with massive overcrowding. So the school based a decision on environmental versus education, and the education won, and they went out into the bush. A lot of Green opposition, as you would expect, and that's understandable. But at one PNC meeting, a lady came and she was very upset with us, and she had long white hair, and she was kind of in the elder sort of age group. Anyway, she was very upset, and she told us that we're all going to regret this decision, and walked out. And one of the other mums turned to me and said, could she be a member of the Wiccan community? And we all sort of looked at each other and went, no. But I went, oh, that's a great idea for the book. The Wiccans protecting the environment and all the conflict that would cause in a small community.
And when did you start writing that?
That was we're in my head probably about 6 or 7 years ago, but on paper 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 or 3 now. It's hard to remember.
I'm going to make a note of that in your head, because I like the idea of that. Because I do something similar where you just have ideas in your head.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
All right, and lucky last, Sophie Stern. Can we have your elevator pitch, please?
No pressure after those two. What is left for us is a modern family drama about 2 sisters from Bondi, the secrets that tore them apart, and the crumbling clifftop house that forces them back together. The novel alternates between the 2 sisters' perspectives, weaving between past and present as it unravels the secrets and mysteries that spun the sisters' lives in different directions. It's for readers who loved Lonely Mouth by Jacqueline Maley, Everyone and Everything by Nadine J. Cohen, and Expectation by Anna Hope. It's out with Penguin on 10th of March 2026.
Wow, that is so professional.
It's a lot of pressure to get it right.
Oh my gosh, I still can't do comp titles when I have to pitch, when I have to do like intro my book. So you're doing amazingly well. They're all great pitches. I really love the sound of all of them. Sophie, when did you start writing yours?
I started writing it in 2022. But like Inessa, I had something in my head for a long time before that, particularly the house that's at the center of the story that has been sort of haunting me for a number of years. And when I actually started putting pen to paper is when I found the story of what had happened in the house.
So is it an actual house that you'd heard about or know about?
No, it's a fictional house on a
Okay.
fictional street in Bondi, but
Okay.
it's this idea of a house on the cliff top that was in my
Mm.
head.
There's a lot of mountainous themes in all three of your books, which I just realized. Hmm. Hmm. So have you always been a writer, Sophie?
I've always written, which I guess means I've always been a writer, but I'm probably only admitting that now. Yeah, I've always written, but mainly for myself.
So when did you feel or when did you think that this could be something you might want to try to get published or even have that kind of dream or vision for the work?
I think, like a lot of people after COVID, is really when I started thinking about how I was spending my time and what my priorities were. And I'd always wanted to write a novel. And I think it was at the end of 2021, I read this amazing book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, which is essentially about how life is finite. There's a limited amount of things you can do. No productivity hack is going to let you do everything. So pick the thing that means the most to you and just go at it. And so that's when I really started to take writing a novel seriously and committed to it. And I signed up to the Curtis Brown Creative Writing Your Novel course, which was great because that gave me structure, it gave me deadlines, it gave me a writing community. And that's when I started, I guess, putting the writing first and putting myself first as a writer.
I like that. Um, how about you, Inessa? When did you or how did you decide you're a writer? Have you always been one?
Haven't actually. I'm going to admit something very embarrassing.
Okay.
In high school, I never got over 60% in English. I mean, and that's good for some people, and for me, it wasn't. I wanted to do a lot better, and it took till I was about 45 before I actually improved. So I came to writing in my early 40s when the kids went to primary school, and I found myself at a loose end, and it was great. Filled my days and kept me sane. So probably
So
that.
yeah, so I'm just really curious about that. So what drew you to the actual to writing if, you know, as you say, at school English wasn't something that your strong suit or you didn't feel like you did that well?
I saw an ad actually for the Australian Writers Centre,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they were offering a creative introduction to creative writing, and I just thought, you know what, this might be me. I'll give this a go. I'd also worked in PR for decades, so I sort of had that writing skills from there, but I wanted to go into a creative sort of mindset. I think also with little kids and you're reading stories all the time and they're imagining things and you're just in this wonderful creative space, I felt it was my time to see what I could do.
And
Yeah.
when you signed up for the course, did you already have ideas or
No.
were you kind of just seeing what was what?
I was just seeing. I had no idea. And it's really funny. I've actually got the first little 250-word assignment, and it's a man standing on the beach, and he doesn't do anything. He doesn't say anything, and no one approaches him. There's not even a dog. He just looks at the horizon. That's like, oh, wow, that's boring. So I've improved a lot, I think, since then.
Well, it sounds very descriptive.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it could be a moody piece,
Exactly. I could just see that
atmosphere.
as an opening shot. Like,
Yeah.
the camera pans into this man. What's he doing there?
Well, what do you think? Anyway.
How about you, Leearna? How did you decide, or do you know? Have you always been a writer?
Always been a writer. I was obsessed with books and writing, even as a kid. I think I wrote my first story, I think it was grade 5, about a mean frog who lost all his friends and had to win them back. And I just never stopped. I wrote all the way through primary school, high school. I ended up getting into journalism, and on the very first day, I just said, this is not what I want to do. I want to write books. And I ended up dropping out and going to do professional writing and editing at RMIT, which was just yeah, the best time. It was just wonderful. And from then I just kept writing. But as you know, life happens, and I had 2 young kids. So it was about 10 years ago, and I'd been writing the whole way through. I think if you added up all the books I've written, it'd be about 15. 90% of them will never see the light of day. But about 10 years ago, I decided, no, I really want this to happen. I want this to be my life. So I really dug in and, started to really push towards publication. And then after we made our tree change, I discovered rural romance, and I just haven't looked back.
It's interesting, isn't it, how so much of life can influence or impact the way we view art or the way we view creativity. I know that a lot of people struggle with that kind of time thing and also the imposter syndrome. So when did you finish a draft of the novel that you were happy to show someone?
I think it was probably the second draft. My mum is always my first reader. She loves reading. She's so lovely, but she has the worst poker face. So she's the perfect first reader because she'll read it and she'll give me all these beautiful compliments, but her face will tell me exactly what she's thinking.
So can I just ask something? Are you sitting there watching her read?
No, but when I ask her questions afterwards,
Okay.
I can, tell whether she's just what she really thinks. So but yeah, so it's usually second draft, and it's usually family members just to ease me into it. But that first that first book, which became which is going to become a farm in Golden Clouds, I think I wrote about 20 drafts of this one, and it's gone through it's been rejected more times than I can count. So it's gone through quite a few versions.
So what did she say when she read that draft? She
absolutely loved it, but I think it was far too long, and I probably waffled on a bit too much. And, you always have too many characters that end up getting cut in later drafts. But I think she still says to this day it's still her favourite book of mine that she's read.
That's beautiful. And so once she'd given you the feedback and you started working on it, did the training that you'd done at RMIT, was that what helped you kind of figure out how to edit and how to kind of make changes?
So I'd also done a professional proofreading course. So editing was one of my strong suits, and I love editing. I really I love writing a sentence, but I just absolutely adore making it better. She was really helpful with that. So
awesome. And then quite a few drafts by the sounds of things.
Yeah, many drafts. And I think it was probably 2023. So 2 years after I had written that first draft, I had moved on and written a couple more, but something about that manuscript just wouldn't let me go. That story just wanted to be told. So I ended up enrolling in an Australian Writer Centre course called Romance Writing, which really just gave me those last few ingredients to really make that manuscript the best that it could be. And it was after that I decided to give that manuscript one last go, and I decided to submit it to a whole heap of competitions in the hope to get feedback that I could then apply before sending it out to publishers and agents.
Smart. And did you get the feedback you were looking for?
Yeah, the Romance Writers Australia's competitions are wonderful for feedback. It's a very safe place to submit your writing if you haven't put it out there before, but the feedback is it's really wonderful because it's from readers, it's from other writers, so you're getting a few different perspectives.
Beautiful. I like that. So I want to come back and ask a few more things about what happened after that, but I just want to ask Sophie about her process. So Sophie, after you wrote that first draft, what happened? Did you show it to someone? Who do you typically show your work to?
Oh, I did not show anyone that first draft. That first draft was a nightmare. It was a mess. It was a complete splatter of word vomit. I'm an underwriter, so I have a lot of trouble hitting word counts. So all I wanted to do was hit 80,000 words as my first draft, and literally as I saw Scrivener tick over to 80,000 words, I was like, yep, the end. And then I put that draft to the side and I knew I wasn't going to tinker with it. I wasn't going to edit that. That was the draft I needed to work out what the story was. And so it took probably about another year after that to break it down and build it back up again.
And you were working on it throughout that year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I didn't really have any first readers until after I signed a deal, to be honest. That was the first time I let my husband read it. I also let my mum read it. My mum gave me some very good feedback. She said there were way too many references of pencil skirts. Everyone was wearing a pencil skirt. So now there are no pencil skirts in the book.
They were all killed off. Not even one survived.
Exactly. So yeah, they're probably the two people who read it most closely.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? That because I don't really show my early drafts to anyone in my family. I'm just like, no. I think I would prefer, like, I prefer now to show it to other writers. Yeah. Do you have like writer friends that you would consider showing future drafts to?
I do now, and as part of the Curtis Brown course, as part of the drafting process, we had to submit little chunks of what we were working on. But I found that good and bad because, like I said, when I'm in that first drafting process, it's not good. It's about finding the story. So getting the feedback at that point sometimes knocked my confidence a little bit. Whereas I think now I know it's probably later in the process, the sort of structural stage where it is really helpful to get reader feedback.
Yeah, and I think the problem with feedback as well, sometimes if you get more than one writer looking or reader looking at it, especially if it's contradicting each other or picking up things that you didn't know there was a problem there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how do I change that?
Yeah, exactly. And not every reader is your reader. So I think also knowing the people that you value the feedback from is important too.
Yeah. And so, Inessa, do you show anyone your work at any stage, like when you feel comfortable? And if so, which stage?
It's a later stage, and it's no one related to me at all. I'm like you. I can't even, I just can't fathom the thought of my parents or anyone reading it. So yeah, I met a great group of writers through the Australian Writers Centre. We did the Write a Novel course, which goes for 6 months, and it was absolutely fantastic. So like Sophie said, we swapped chunks of writing every week, and we got to know each other. Quite a few were sort of in a similar genre, so we could understand each other's work from a structural point of view and what was expected from the reader, which was great. And then we would give really, really positive but constructive feedback to each other. And that was years ago, like 7 years ago, and we're still together as a group, which is just so good. We're close mates now.
Yeah. And it's amazing, isn't it, how when you read other people's writing as well, how much of an impact that has on your own work, because you can see, especially when you see things that they do really well, and you're like, oh, how did you do that? I really want to know how to do that.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
Yeah. So you're all three of you are part of the Debut Crew 2026, and for listeners who may not know what that is, it's a group of writers whose debuts are coming out that year. I think it started in 2023 because it's been going on a few years consecutively now. So, Sophie, you started the group, didn't you?
I did, with the help and encouragement of Madeline Cleary, which has been amazing.
And so how did Inessa and Leearna, how did you make your way into the crew?
I think I was one of the first ones because I signed my contract quite early. I think I saw Sophie put the call out for anyone else who had their debut coming out in 2026. So I just DM'd her and we jumped straight into the group and haven't looked back. It's just been such a wonderful, supportive community.
It is. Awesome. It's wonderful. I've got the same story. Yeah, I saw Sophie's post and contacted her.
And how many of you now in the group?
There's over 50.
Wow. It's only January. Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a joy. And something that was really unexpected, I think, to come out of this process, to connect with everyone.
Yeah, it's the best. I can only imagine your chats. So Leearna, you mentioned that you'd signed your contract a while ago. When did you sign?
So from the time I signed to the day my book comes out will be over 18 months, which to some people sounds like a long time, and to others, they might be 2 years, and it doesn't sound quite so long. But for someone who's been working towards that goal for quite a while, I was very eager to get going. So it has been a long wait for me.
So tell me what happened. So after you entered those competitions, did that give you enough confidence to feel like you could submit to an agent or a publisher after that?
So one of the competitions I entered was the Romance Writers of Australia's Emerald Award, which is just, as I said, such a wonderful competition. And I was lucky enough to be shortlisted, which for me was just such a win at the time in itself, because I'd never been shortlisted for my writing before. And I was at a time in my journey where I was quite low, and I felt like I was just banging my head against a brick wall and not getting any further. And that really gave me the confidence to keep going. And I ended up flying over to Glenelg for the conference and incredibly discovered that my manuscript had actually won the Emerald Award.
Oh my God, that must have been huge.
Huge. It was such a thrill. I don't think I slept that night. I was just on such a high, and things moved very, very quickly from there. So I was actually approached by publishers at that conference. The next day, I had a couple reach out to me through my website, and I even had a publisher slide into my DMs on Instagram asking if they could see that manuscript. And I ended up going back to each and every one of them and said, oh, yes, of course, I'd be happy to send that through. But I've also successfully pitched my second manuscript at that same conference and had a few requests for that one. And they all said, please send through both manuscripts.
Nice.
So there wasn't much sleep for the next few weeks as I tried to get 2 manuscripts ready. Well, they were ready, but just to sort of polish them up,
yeah.
and send them off to, I think it was about 6 or 7 publishers. And I knew a couple of them wouldn't be interested because rural romance is quite a niche genre, and not every publisher, has space for that on their list. But I sent it all out, and then it wasn't even 5 days later, I got an email from Annette Barlow at Allen and Unwin asking if we could have a chat. And for me, as a rural fiction writer, Annette Barlow, she's just such a champion for rural fiction. And a couple of her authors have been my favourite authors. So that was a huge thrill. And we ended up having this wonderful chat about my manuscripts and my writing process and what my hopes and plans were going forward. And at the end of that conversation, I just expected her to say, no worries, I'll be in touch. And instead, she offered me a 2-book deal with Allen and Unwin.
Oh, the dream. And did you play it cool and be like, I'll go think about it? Or were you like, yes?
I actually can't tell you because I don't remember anything after I'm going to have to ask her one day what I said, because I do not remember anything after she made that deal. I think it was just internal screaming and white noise. But it was just all those emotions. There was joy, there was relief, there was shock. And then as soon as we hung up, I did just started crying, those happy tears, called my husband, called my family. And then we just went out and celebrated that night. So
it's the best high, isn't it? There's nothing like that moment. Yeah.
Nothing like it.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Inessa? When did you sign your deal?
Pretty much 12 months ago. So
okay.
January, is that 2025? 2025, thank you. Yeah.
And how was that? Like, what led you? How did you get there? What did you do?
Okay, so I had a previous manuscript, a murder mystery, which was the first one I'd written to previously, and that this was my third one, and I thought I actually feel reasonably good about this. So I entered it in the the ASA HQ Commercial Fiction Prize.
Ah, yes.
And it got shortlisted for that. And
congratulations.
Then thank you. And then I put it into the Banjo Prize, and it got runner-up for that. So I sat down after I found out, went, okay, I think I've got confidence now. I can do this. I did the ASA's literary speed dating online. I
Yes.
recommend that so highly. I don't know if you guys have done it, but it's wonderful.
I've always been too scared to do that. Always.
It is terrifying.
It is.
Yeah. But it's worth it. It's so worth it. So I met Martin Hughes, the ex-CEO of the Firm Press, and he requested my manuscript, and he got back to me really quickly and said, look, we can't publish it, but I loved it. It's just going to take too much work to develop, but here's about 2 or 3 pages of feedback. And I couldn't thank him enough.
Wow.
It was just, I
So
know,
generous.
it was just wonderful. So I sat down and decided I would rewrite it, and I got about, 2 days in and just thought, oh wow, I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not sure I'm at the level yet I can do this. I'm going to park it. And I went back to the Devil Mountain idea, and I wrote that really quickly, maybe 6 or 9 months.
So what year are we talking now?
Look, that's a good question. What are we in now?
We're in 2026, your debut year.
2024.
2024. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
So, and I submitted it to the Varuna Affirm Mentorship Award, and I won a spot on that. And oh my God, I was just over the moon. So I had a week at Varuna with the Affirm editorial team and 3 other amazing writers. And it was just like, it's a corny thing to say, it was a dream come true. We had feedback sessions. I took that feedback really seriously, and I went away and rewrote that. And that took another sort of 6 months. And I resubmitted it, and Affirm within 2.5 months got back to me and said, yes, let's do it.
So cool.
Yeah, I was in Japan at the time when I got the email, and I'm nearly through my sushi. I was like, we're eating lunch, and I'm like, oh my God, big yell. A little bit of food went flying, but everyone was happy for me in the restaurant. Everyone knew it was great.
Oh, and did they offer you like a 1 book or a 2 book deal?
1 book. Yeah.
1 book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're interested. We had a chat about where I see my career going, and I said I would love to make this a series. I love the main character. Hopefully you do too. But yeah, it's one book contract.
So far.
Yeah. So far. Thank you.
And Sophie, how did you go? What happened?
It's funny listening to Inessa and Leearna, because I think there's a lot of similarities about the impact of competitions in particular. So I started writing What Is Left for Us on the Curtis Brown course, and as part of that course, your work or a sample of your work is sent around to the Curtis Brown agents. And one of the agents expressed interest in seeing the manuscript when it was finished. And at the time I was like, no problem, I'll be done in a few months. And of course, 1 year later, I was still plugging away at it. And like Leearna, I was starting to get really frustrated and feeling a bit down and wondering, is this the novel that sits in my drawer before I start writing another one? And then on a total whim, I entered it into the Penguin Literary Prize on the last day that it was open, and then sort of forgot about it. And then 3 months later, I was sitting in the library working on the manuscript and opened my email and was told I was on the shortlist for the Penguin Literary Prize. And honestly, I thought it was some elaborate phishing or spam email. Like I could not believe it. But like Leearna and Inessa, it was really when I went, oh, maybe I'm okay. Maybe there's something in here. So that's when I went back to the agent at Curtis Brown, and I signed with them. And I didn't win the Penguin Literary Prize, but I got really amazing, generous feedback from the judges. And, these were people who worked in publishing and in book selling. So that was incredible to get that feedback and have that opportunity. And then went out on submission in September 2024 and signed back with Penguin in October 2025. 2024, sorry.
2024.
Mixing all my years up.
That's okay. Don't worry. I do it all the time. So, Sophie, are you the only one that has an agent? Because Leearna and Inessa, you don't have agents, do you? No. Yeah. So I'm really curious about, because you're all with such different size publishers, Penguin, Affirm, and Allen and Unwin. What have you learnt so far about publishing? And you can feel free to spill the dirt if you want to. Like, I'm sure well, I'm not sure, but I assume that you talk to each other about, different milestones and different feedback that you get from your editors. Like, what have you learned, or what have you noticed in terms of how publishing works? Because, so much of it is such a mystery and so opaque.
I think I've learned that I was just completely naive about the whole publishing process and how I had absolutely no idea about it. I think in my head, I thought publishing was just an extension of the writing process, that you just sort of seamlessly rolled into it and had your book edited and then it was published. But, it's an industry in and of itself, obviously. It's a profession and it's quite opaque, I think, sometimes. And it's almost, you don't know what you don't know. You don't even know what questions to ask. And so I think that's where the Debut Crew and podcasts like this one, to be honest, have been really helpful to break that down a little bit and not necessarily know the answers, but at least know what you can ask for.
Yeah.
But I didn't even have any idea that there was a difference between structurals and copy editing and proofreading and all these different phases, which sounds really naive now that I think about it.
It's not, because no one talks about it. Literally, the only times you hear these words are when you talk to other writers, right?
True.
Who
Yeah.
are going through a process. So, yeah, it is weird. So for you, Sophie, then what you've learned, like what you've learned or what you've realized is that kind of editing kind of process and milestones, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a lot out of that whole process at each stage. I found that really valuable. And I think having the initial feedback through the prize meant that I've had this quite long relationship with Penguin as well, which has been really nice. And I felt like they've really understood the book and I've understood what they see in the book as well for a long time.
And have you had the same editor the whole way through?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really good. And what about you, Leearna and Inessa? Like, are there things that you've learned that you had no idea about, or that you'd heard about that you're like, what is that?
I think I was a bit the same as Sophie. I think that the book deal is that horizon for so long. It's the goal that you're aiming for, that I didn't really spend too much time looking a little, a bit further past it. So once I got there, I think I just expected that I signed the contract, 2 weeks later we'd start edits and we'd go from there. And I think I just didn't realize that it is a business. I think I was just lucky that, my publisher and my publishing team were quite happy to answer all my questions, which to me felt like I was just endlessly asking, okay, so what happens next? And they were like, just settle, we'll be right. We'll let you know when things happen, they know what they're doing. So yeah, I was quite happy in the end to take a step back and trust them to take me through this process. But I think, the main thing I learned is that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew about the whole process.
And how did you deal, because like, especially with long lead times, signing a contract so much in advance of publication, there's so many periods where it seems like nothing's happening, or rather you don't have to do anything, or you don't have to deliver anything. Were you okay with that? How are you at like kind of waiting and chilling and just...
Those 7 months before I started edits were excruciating. And then once we started and I was on deadline, and then I was like, oh no, wait, go back to the waiting period, because I've got quite a busy life, and life doesn't stop when you're on deadline. So, and after all these years, I really wanted to give it everything that I had. So, I really just had to push through and get that done. And then you send it off and then you're back to waiting again. So I think, all that patience and that persistence and that grit that you develop when you're, writing a first draft and working through endless edits and, waiting to hear back from competition and publishers, it really does come back into play once you've signed that book deal. So, that's been a steep learning curve.
How about you, Inessa? Were there things that you figured out or realized that you didn't know before?
Yeah, I found the acquisition process fascinating. So I didn't know anything about that before. I thought that once I'd had a chat with the editors there, Laura and Ruby. That was great. And then they said, okay, now we're going to take it to the team. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, we'll take it to the team. Let's do that. And they explained the acquisition meeting to me. And basically, not the whole company, but all the key players, a lot of key players in the company come together in the meeting room and they look at manuscripts and they assess them. And the marketing guys have a really big say in what's going to happen and whether or not they're going to go through. So I found that, really interesting. And the accountants are there and they're all swapping theories on whether or not it's going to fly. So you could have the best written manuscript in the world with a wonderful story, but if the whole team doesn't think it's going to get up and they can't sell it, then you're not going to get a contract. So I found that equally terrifying and reassuring that I'd managed to slip into the market they saw a gap for it. That was great finding out about that.
Yeah. It's so interesting, like when you're on this side submitting, and then even the acquisitions, it's like, oh my God, this is yet another hurdle. Like, it's not just because they love it, it's not a yes. Like,
that's exactly right.
This is, so do you all have your arcs?
No, not yet.
Oh, Sophie, you do?
I do, yes. I got my arc quite early. I got the arc before it went to proofreading. So my main character's name I have misspelled a couple of times in that. But yeah, I think the final copies will drop any day now.
So exciting. Yeah. So the arcs, when they arrive, it's very special. So for people who are not sure what an arc is, it's an advanced reading copy that you get, usually before you proofread or just after.
They don't usually do arcs for rural romance, so I will be waiting for my real copies to arrive.
I mean, that's just as exciting, probably.
It will
maybe
be
even more exciting. Yeah. Do they? You get arcs, right, Inessa?
You know what? I actually don't know. I've forgotten to ask that. It's all been so exciting. I've been doing copy edits and proofreading, and I will find out. I'll report back.
Oh, it's the best feeling. So you've all mentioned, family commitments, work. So how do you write? Like, I know you've got your book deal now, but what's your practice look like? Like, how do you find the time? How do you do it? Being parents and having life commitments, etc. Inessa?
Look, I didn't ever go back to the workforce. We have a beautiful son, so I've been parenting him. And as he's gotten older and more independent, I've got more and more time. So I just carve out as much as I can until my brain starts hurting. Not every day, but I try and do something every day, working on book 2 and fixing up book 1. So I'm very fortunate in that way that I can sort of pick and choose a bit when I write.
And what do you do if, you decide that I need to sit down today and get something done, and you sit down and it's just not happening? Do you just make yourself sit there, or do you try something? What do you do?
I usually whinge to a friend online, a writing friend, and she always gives me really good advice. I usually, if I'm stuck with a scene, I just start a new scene, and I usually start it with an argument or a fight or just someone telling the other person to get lost. And it's like, oh, okay, why are you doing that? There's a lot of swearing in my books.
I have never heard that. I have never heard that before. I really like that idea. Start writing a new scene with 2 people arguing.
Yeah. And usually it comes out, I edit it out, but something always comes from that. Someone's always pissed off with someone else, excuse my language.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so I don't do that every time. It doesn't work every time, but that's one of the things I try.
That's a really great tip. I'm just going to already name it. For writer's block, or if you're feeling a bit stuck, I like that. Thank you. How about you, Leearna? What's your writing practice look like?
So I have to be quite strict because my life is chaos. We obviously live on 30 acres. I work part-time. I also do the books for my husband's business. My children do sports 7 days a week, and I'm often in the car for over 2 hours a day. So what I did was I actually used my advance to drop a day at work. And now I spend 2 days just writing. I'm pretty strict with it. I mean, these couple of weeks, kids are going back to school. They're still on holidays, and that's been a bit hard. But I try to be pretty strict in those 2 days, and I will not get up from my desk for the whole time I'm there.
Okay. And when you're there, for you, it's very much a time thing. Like, are you sitting there going, I need to hit this word count? Or you're like, nope, this is my time. I'm just going to do as much as possible.
I used to do a lot of word count, so have quite a big word count for the day, and I just found that pressure was getting to me. So I now break it down, and I've got to get to 250 words. 250 words is very manageable. I write quite fast, and I can write a lot in a short time of a period. So I just got to hit that 250 words, and often by the time I stop, I've gone past it. And then so I'll just got to hit another 250. And I'll just do that for the rest of the day. And just having those smaller goals. Also, I love ticking off a list. So just being able to tick off all those goals just, gives me that little boost, but also keeps me accountable.
And also that, that's really important for anyone who's struggling with time or doesn't have, a lot of time, that it's possible. You can carve out a day or 2 days or whatever it is, and you can get quite a lot done.
Yeah, absolutely. But I take my laptop with me everywhere. As I said, my kids do sport every day of the week. So I'm often in the car park at a basketball stadium or a footy oval, just typing out whenever I can. So, when times do get busy, that happens less and less. But it's something I love doing. So if I've got an hour, I will grab the opportunity.
Yeah, nice. How about you, Sophie? What's your writing practice look like?
Similar to Leearna, I'm someone who writes in big chunks of time rather than regularly over the week. So when I started writing, my son was younger and he was still taking naps. So nap time, beautiful little writing power hour. Otherwise, it's just been really through the support of my parents and in-laws and husband, sort of taking my child on the weekend for a few hours, and I take myself to the library. I worked at the time full time. Now I'm 4 days a week, and now my son is at school. So Friday is my writing day between 9 and 3. It's just my writing time, and I just go at it. It is so precious. I do not waste a minute, and I think that's actually really helpful that it's quite compressed, and I don't take it for granted at all.
And what do you do if you're feeling stuck or it's not flowing as you hope?
I really like free writing and sort of stream of consciousness style writing. So I'll often just force myself to do that. I also love making playlists for the book that I'm working on. So a playlist, for a particular character or a particular scene. So I'll often take myself for a walk while listening to a track over and over, and that often sparks some ideas. And then I'll get out the notes app, and I'm that annoying person on the street sort of typing madly, looking down at my phone. So I find that pretty helpful. And sometimes you just have to walk away as well and have a break and do something else.
Yeah, and that actually segues really beautifully into the next part of my question. So I wanted to come back to what Inessa said earlier. She made a comment about it was in my head for a while. How do ideas come to you? Like, is it something that you feel like you actively do, or you just get inspired, or how does that work for you, Sophie?
I don't know if it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it comes.
I love
it just
woo-woo.
Comes. Yeah, I can't force it. Something just comes to me and I can't forget about it. And I actually tried when I was starting to write my second book. I thought, now I've done this, I'm all over it, easy peasy. And I tried to sort of be more deliberate about plotting and planning, and that was an absolute disaster. So I put that away, and then a completely different idea came to me, and that was organic. So that's what works for me. At the moment, the ideas are still coming, but I guess it's scary when they stop coming.
And do you write them down or note them down somewhere when they do come?
Yeah, I've got a lot of garbled voice memos to myself, which is slightly frightening to listen back to.
I find little bits of paper all over the house. Like one day I picked it up and I'm like, it was like 2 sentences. It made no sense. And I'm like, did I even write this? I don't even remember writing this.
Yeah.
What about you, Inessa? Because you mentioned earlier about that story was in your head. When your ideas come to you, how do they come? Like, are they images or people or plots, or how does it work for you?
It's very much people. So I've got this filter, as you guys would imagine as well. So you're talking to someone and then they say something interesting or a bit strange and you go, ooh, hang on, we backtrack to that. You're overhearing people. I'm a terrible eavesdropper. I write on little bits of paper. I actually counted the other day. I've got 8 notebooks, but most of my ideas are on little scraps. It's just awful. I can't remember to take the notebook anyway. Yeah, and I send myself a lot of emails. But yeah, it's just generally being out in the general population and talking to people. And yeah, I find that that's really valuable. Real people saying interesting things. Yeah.
So when you have, like, you know, little sparks everywhere, how do you decide, or how do you know which one you're going to follow, like to expand out or work on a bit more?
It's a really good question. I think if they last longer than 12 hours, so a lot of them come and go very quickly. Yeah. They're like, what was that? That was crap. But if they linger, you know, days turn into weeks and then a couple of weeks, and I think I'm still thinking about this and I've built on it, then I know, well, it doesn't happen. It's only happened a couple of times. I'm on a winner. I think I'm on a winner and I'm really excited about it and I can't stop thinking about it. And I want to tell other people about it, which is really boring because it's so poorly formed at this stage. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, I'm excited about it and I think about it a lot. Yeah, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get so excited when an idea starts to sprout and I'm like, oh my God, I think this is something.
It's great. Oh, tingles.
Exactly. And Leearna, how about you? This excitement for you too? Or?
Most of my ideas have literally just come from, like, well, not small things, but, you know, my husband's close call on a mower, or one day I was walking through the forest and I thought I saw a leg and a man hide behind a tree, and it just ended up being this giant deer. And it's just little things like that. But, you know, since we've moved to this small town, people who say that small towns and country towns are boring, they are definitely not boring. There's always some gossip, some story that, you know, you overhear, and it just sparks that idea. Plus there's also something about, you know, big blue skies and open paddocks and eucalyptus forests that just spark the imagination.
Yeah, it's kind of begging for, like, inspiration, isn't it? All that beautiful
Absolutely.
Yeah, openness, expansiveness. So tell me, how are you preparing for publication, Leearna? Like, what does the PR side look like? What does the marketing side look like that you know of? What are you thinking about? How are you feeling about it?
So the first word that comes to mind is terrified, but it is quickly chased by excitement. The PR side and the self-promo, it's not something I've ever come across in my life. So that was a little bit scary at first, but I've got a great publicist, and the closer we're getting to the book coming out, and the more, you know, we're talking to podcasts and writers' festivals and libraries about to do book events. And I'm actually getting quite excited and eager to get out there and meet people and talk about this book that, you know, I've lived with for 6 years of my life. So I'm just really excited to, you know, get it out there. But I'm really trying not to put too much expectation and pressure on myself. You know, all 3 of us, we're all debut authors. We've never done this before. Everything is new, and, you know, I'm not going to get everything right the first time. But I think the main thing is I'm just at that point now where I'm ready to give it a go, and just go with the flow. And, you know, I've been working towards this moment for, well, you know, technically my whole life, but probably about 10 years. So I really just do want to stay in the moment and enjoy it. And yeah, really just enjoy this moment.
Mm-hmm. That is so important, because I know that our crew last year, there were so many people who were so anxious, and I get it. And also it was this feeling that I kept coming back to, of we have to enjoy it, because no matter how many books we might write, or if we never write another book again, we will never repeat this. This will be it for, like, you know, we'll never have this specific experience again of getting a book out there in the world.
And like, those anxieties are definitely there, but I think the main thing is just not letting them take over. You know, just pushing them aside and trusting that You know, you're here for a reason. Your book is coming out for a reason, and your book
Mm.
will find its readers. So
Yeah,
just to enjoy the process and the journey.
exactly. And something that helped me as well was like realizing that every time you do an event or every library talk, everything, even a book launch, like everyone there is rooting for you. Like they want you to succeed and they care about you in some way, or they want to read this book. So that helped me because I always had this weird image of being quite adversarial. Like I had to like fight or like had to convince someone. And I'm like, no, that's not what's happening. So yeah. How about you, Sophie? How are you feeling? And are you feeling about speaking, and what are you scared about? What are you excited about?
I think I might need to take a snip of Leearna's advice about just enjoying it and just repeat it over and over, because that was really nice. I'm definitely feeling anxious about it. I remember talking to you, Natasha, last year when we met up, and you talked about, you know, the importance of being present and enjoying it and taking the time and making space for it as well. So that's what I'm trying to do in the lead up is, you know, how can I create space around the launch time, whether it's, you know, organizing a meal delivery, getting everything organized with childcare, trying to book as many things in as possible now and taking some time off work so that when the time comes, I can just soak it all in.
Exactly. It kind of is like your wedding day.
Yeah, I'm more excited for this than my wedding. Like,
But it kind of has that feeling like everyone's swarming around you and all the attention's on you. You have to
absolutely.
organize. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I've been focusing on, I guess, is the internal preparation for the book coming out, because I noticed particularly in the last maybe 6 weeks, I'd been hoping that people would read my book and that my book would do well. And now suddenly it's switched to, oh, people are going to read my book. And so just sort of, you know, making friends with that anxiety and staring into it a little bit. It was interesting listening to the episode you did, Natasha, about journaling and using that as a practice as well to sort of untangle your thoughts. So yeah, that's a lot of my focus at the moment. And I blocked Goodreads preemptively.
Excellent. Excellent. All of you should block Goodreads. Do not read any reviews of your own books, even if everyone says to you, oh my God, they're glowing reviews. Don't do it.
Yeah,
Because there'll be
I know
one.
myself. I'll spiral.
Yeah, yeah. There'll be one or two. That's what I did. And I spiraled. I was like, oh my God, I've written a pile of trash. Yeah, don't do it. So is the anxiety, like how do you feel about speaking about your book? Because I know that can feel really difficult at first because you don't really know. Well, I don't know. I'm talking about myself really. I don't really know how to talk about the book initially. Do you have any of that worry, or is it just generalized anxiety?
I think it's just a generalized big ball of anxiety at the moment, to be honest. I'm a pretty private person as well, so it feels odd to suddenly talk about myself a lot. But I think also just listening to other people on podcasts is really helpful to hear how they speak about their books, and, you know, getting used to the rhythm of those conversations is really helpful. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully I get better.
Well, someone gave me some really good advice. They were like, it's your book. You can say whatever you want about it. No one's going to know. I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, you could literally say anything. And I'm like, oh, you do. They're like, you don't have to go on some truth-telling mission. Just say whatever you want. I'm like, oh,
I like
duh.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Inessa? How are you feeling leading up to publication day and your work being out in the world?
I'm swinging between really excited and really nervous, and then really terrified. Can you swing in three directions?
Yes, you can.
You can? Okay, cool.
You can.
I don't know if you noticed yet, but I say a lot of really stupid things and you can't get them back in live events. So I was like, oh.
Oh, well, I definitely have not noticed you saying anything
Thank
stupid.
you.
I think there's a very harsh inner critic in there. But anyway,
okay.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the inner critic is just, alive and well. But look, I'm going to do some practice, just talking to friends and family and just bore them silly, just doing some question and answer. And I've done a couple of short courses online about how to prepare and do PR. I'm also working with a wonderful publicity manager at a firm, and she's really experienced and she's really excited about reading the book and getting to know me and working together. I accidentally dropped the fact that I used to work in PR for a couple of decades, but I haven't done the PR for about 15 years. And I'm not sure if the internet was even invented back when I was doing it. So I'm really trying to get my head around Insta. And I've found that a wonderful community. You guys would know this. It's just so wonderful being on there with the Australian authors and readers. So I've networked and met wonderful people, supporting the community there. And I feel as though that's a big sort of step forward. Everyone supports each other.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think I'm getting better at reels, although I'm using my cat too much. So I've got to get back to the dog. Dog's getting jealous. So I might have to evolve those posts into something a bit more sophisticated.
Mm.
But overall, yeah, kind of terrified, but looking forward to it.
How are you at public speaking?
Rubbish. Can't you tell?
I honestly can't. I don't know. You keep saying all these things about saying silly things and being terrible. I'm like, no, I haven't seen that at all.
Look, I do, back in the day, I did a lot of public speaking. I did some live television. God, that's funny. And I was spokesperson for eBay for a while. So I did a lot of it, but I don't know where it's gone. And I think it's still in there, but I just need to get comfortable with doing it again. And I think that'll just come through practice. Yeah.
And it's always helpful. I mean, well, the events that I've done so far, it's always helpful. Actually, you know what? It was so weird. I always thought it was going to be really helpful to have people I really knew well in the crowd. And sometimes it isn't. Other times it's actually way better to have like some stranger with kind eyes kind of smiling and nodding. And you're like, yes, you get it. I'm going to keep looking at you. Probably they're freaked out. They were like, why should you keep looking at me? But that helped too. Like just kind of finding a nice face in the crowd to look at.
I'll look out for them. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you mentioned community. How have you all gone about creating community? Obviously, you've got the debut crew, 2026. Did you know writers before you joined the crew? Did you know writers before you got public? I know you've got writing groups as well, but yeah, how do you find that? How do you build on that? Inessa?
No, I didn't know many writers at all. And everyone starts small on Insta, but I found I went straight for the authors I love. So I don't want to say I stalked them, maybe I did. I followed all their posts and liked all their posts, and then I saw who they were supporting, and then it just got wide, the net went wider and wider and wider, until I've just got a stream full of just fantastic content. I mean, again, you guys would see this too. It's just wonderful. So yeah, I started very small with the people I love.
Like it. How about you, Leearna?
I went to a few book launches early on, and I met a couple of people there and went straight home and stalked them and followed them on Instagram. And then they didn't really have a choice. They just became my writer people. And from there you meet new people and they introduce you. And I think the writing groups are really important. I'm part of the Write Club, which is an online group, and the Write Squad, which is a fantastic supportive community. And the people you meet, like we're all at different stages of our journey, but all going through the same thing. So it is really important. But even the Bookstagram community have just been so wonderful. And even though my book isn't out, I've just made so many friends because if you're a writer, you're a reader.
Yes.
And we all love stories. So I've really been trying to, focus on community and on Instagram instead of just spewing out all this content, which is why I started up a Substack newsletter, a monthly newsletter, which was more for myself, but I found that I've made a whole new lot of connections because I'm just going through month by month and sharing where I am at the journey and how the process works. And that's been really lovely to meet new people that way.
I think the writing community is so supportive and so welcoming. And I think because we all have quite a lot of introverted energy, it just helps when someone with a bit more confidence goes, hi, like, oh, hi. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sophie?
Yeah, like the others, I've been really pleasantly surprised by how wonderful the community on Instagram is in particular. It's very welcoming, very warm, and that's been a really nice way to connect with other writers who are often like very generous in sort of introducing to other people. Like, I feel like one writer and suddenly they're like, oh, I've got to introduce you to this person and you should meet this person. So that has been a really nice way to build community. I also, I guess at the physical level, introduced myself to the manager at my local bookstore as well in the past couple of weeks. And that's really nice to have that connection as well, to build that side of things.
Love it. So before we wrap up, like we do with all our guests, what is your top tip for writers out there? Anyone can jump in.
Well, I think the theme of this conversation has been competitions and how much that has helped all of us. So I would say look for the competitions. All of the state writing associations have great email lists that you can sign up to. You don't need to be a member, and they'll put out regular emails with all of the opportunities. So throw your hat in the ring, and look for those opportunities because they are so helpful.
Excellent. Thank you.
I think my tip is based on my own experience in that write the story, finish it, edit it as best you can, get it out there, send it out there to agents and publishers. But eventually you need to let it go and sit down and write the next thing. Do I think I would have been offered a 2-book deal if I didn't have that backlist of manuscripts? Maybe, but I'm not sure. But what I do know is having that backlist, showed publishers that I had more than one book in me. I was an author worth investing their time and money into, and that I was serious about my money, about my writing. Whether I would love to turn it into a career, but even if I couldn't do that I was interested in longevity anyway. And also writing is like any skill. The more you do it, the better you get. And moving on and writing those new manuscripts gave me the confidence and more tools in the toolkit that when I went back to that first manuscript, I had all these skills and tools that I could use to make that manuscript better. So yeah, write your book, finish it, but then move on, just keep going.
Love it. Thank you. Inessa?
I'd say, unless you particularly want to, you don't have to do it alone. I would find kindred spirits, and you can find those people maybe at your own level through the regional writing centres, and they do courses both in real life and online. And you find really cool people to understand what you're going through, and they're going to do feedback with you, and you can give feedback on their work, and you learn and grow together. And then in those moments, where you can't write a scene, you've got someone on Messenger you can just quickly text and go, listen to them, and they can help you back on the path. So that's what I found. I wouldn't have been able to do it without my writing friends. Like, seriously, I'm not being corny. I wouldn't have been able to do it. They put me back on the path, and we support each other. So yeah, that's my top tip.
That's such good tips. Thank you all for that. Also, it's going to be a special treat both for me and our listeners, because we're having this chat now, and then we're going to meet again later in the year, after your books are out, so that we can do a before and after. I was going to do a sound effect, but I don't know what sound effect. I know, but I was like, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, right?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm really, really already so keen and interested to listen to this episode again, like after we do our next one, and just to compare. But for now, congratulations, all three of you, on your amazing books that are coming out. And just for our listeners, can you just say those titles again, please? Sophie?
What is Left for Us by Sophie Stern.
Excellent. Leearna?
A Farm in Golden Clouds by Leearna Shaw, out on the 31st of March with Allen and Unwin.
Beautiful.
And Devil Mountain by Inessa Jackson, out with Affirm on the 26th of May.
Yay! Okay. Congratulations, and have a wonderful publication year, and we will catch up again later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you for listening to the Book Deal podcast. We're able to bring you these weekly writerly chats because of our amazing patrons. Join the TPD family by becoming a member of our Patreon community at patreon.com/The Book Deal podcast. And if you love the pod, please give us a rating or review. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.